Hello again. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to define the variables in an SPSS database. To keep it simple, let's suppose that our database will only have three variables: respondent's marital status, married or not married, respondent's age in years, and opinion about drinking alcohol on a scale from 1 to 7, where 1 is totally disagree and 7 is totally agree. Let's start with the SPSS interface here. As you already know, each column here represents a variable, and each row represents an individual case, for example, a survey respondent or a test subject. So, our new database will have three columns, because we have three variables. In order to define these variables, we must click this tab here, Variable View. Now we see the interface for creating variables. In this interface, each line represents a variable and each column represents a variable property. We can set no less than 11 variable properties, and I'm going to explain them one by one. So our first variable is respondent's marital status with two levels, married and non-married. The first variable property is name. It should be short and suggestive. Also, it cannot begin with a number and cannot contain special characters like question marks, slashes, etc. Only letters, numbers, dashes, and underscores. Let's call our first variable marital. Okay. The next property, variable type. The default type is numeric, but we can change that if we want. We have to click this small button. The most popular types are numeric, string here, and date. For the marital status is a string variable, in principle, please allow me to define it as numeric. Why? Because we are going to code the two levels of this variable with numbers, as you will see in a moment. So our variable is numeric here. Press OK. The next variable property is width. This property only affects string variables, not the numeric ones. It's simply the maximum number of characters allowed for the values of that variable. The next property, decimals. Obviously, this property is for numeric variables only. We don't need decimals for our numeric codes, so I'll set this property value to 0. The next property, label. Since variable names are oftentimes short and confusing, it is recommended to use the label property to enter a clear description for each variable. For this first variable, I'm going to enter here marital status in clear. Marital, just a moment, status. Okay. So anybody who uses this database knows what it's about. Let's go to the next property, values. Here we can enter the possible values or levels of the categorical variables, like marital status, for example. It is very advisable to use numerical codes for these levels, because this way entering the data will be much easier. In our example, we will code the variable levels with 1 and 2. 1 for married and 2 for not married. I'll show immediately how. We click the small button here. A new dialog box called Value Labels appears. Here I introduce the value 1, as I said, and here the label, married. Now I press this Add button, and the first value is added in this window here. The second value is 2 with the label not married. I can enter spaces here. Again, don't forget to press the Add button to confirm this new value. That's it. We only have two levels, two values, so we can press OK. These values appear here in this field. The next property, missing values. This property is optional. If we do want to define missing values for our variable, we click here, this button. Now we select discrete and enter a missing value, for example, 0. So when the program finds this value, it knows it's a missing value and it will not use it in the statistical procedures. We also can define a range of missing values. For example, all the values from 7 to 9, that 7 and 9 will be considered missing values. Let's press OK to confirm. The range of missing values appears here. Next property, columns. Here we can define the maximum number of characters for the variable name. So not the variable values, the variable name. The default value for this property is 8. We will keep it. Next property, align. By default, the program aligns the cell content to the right. But if we want to change that, we can do it here. We have 3 options, left, right, center. We will preserve the default option right. Now, this is an important option, measure, with 3 possible types. Let's take it from bottom to up here. The nominal type is for the categorical variables like sex, marital status, profession, city of residence, favorite newspaper, or favorite coffee brand. The ordinal type is appropriate when we order or classify in some way the levels of a categorical variable. For example, if we measure the satisfaction with a certain product, say a car, on a 4-level scale, very unsatisfied, unsatisfied, satisfied, and very satisfied, we can use an ordinal measure, an ordinal scale. This scale will be very good for our third variable, opinion about drinking alcohol, as we will see in a few moments. And the last option here, scale, which is appropriate for the continuous or numeric variables. For example, age, number of children, salary, profit, monthly sales, height, weight, and so on. For this variable, marital status, the nominal measure is obviously appropriate. So we select it here. And the last variable property, role, I'm not going to insist here because it is very unlikely that you will really use this property. It's safe to set it to none or input for all the variables in your file. So let's set it simply to input. Okay, so our first variable is defined. Let's get to the next variables now. The next variable, you may remember, is age in years. So here the name will be age. Of course, the variable type will be numeric, again with 0 decimals, because I'm not interested in decimals. In the variable level, I will enter here in clear respondent's age in years. Okay. I will not enter anything here in the property values because this variable has not predefined values. In the missing values property, I will keep none. Align to the right. I will only change this property, measure, which is in this case the scale property, because our variable is a numeric variable, age. And the role is also input. Our last variable is opinion about drinking alcohol on a 7-point scale. I will call it simply alcohol. Okay. It will be also numeric with 0 decimals. The label will be, for example, opinion about alcohol. Okay. Here we do have predefined values from 1 to 7, the scale levels. Let's click here to define them. So 1, the first level is, for example, totally disagree. Okay, click add. Level 2 is disagree. Level 3 is, for example, somewhat disagree. Add again. Level 4 is neutral. Level 5 is somewhat agree. Somewhat here, somewhat agree. Level 6 is agree. And finally level 7 is totally agree. That's it. Our variable is defined. We press OK. I will only set now the measure property, which in this case is obviously ordinal, because it's a categorical variable where we can set an order for the levels. That's it. To come back to the data view, we click this tab here, data view. Our database has 3 columns, 3 variables, and now we can enter our data. Let's suppose, for example, that our first respondent is married, so the value is 1, has 35 years, and his opinion about drinking alcohol is totally disagree, 7. And so on and so on. We can enter all our respondents' data. That's it. See you in the next lesson. Thank you.